Hello and welcome to Art Laughs with me, Verity Babs. Today I spoke to Alice Brine. Alice, please introduce yourself.
Hi, how are you? Sorry. I was like, introduce yourself to who? But yeah. So I'm Alice and I'm a stand-up comedian. And I am from New Zealand. That's where my accent's from. I'm not Australian, so I just want to clear that up always at the start of things. Um,
Disclaimer.
yes, I'm very excited to be here to talk about art. As a art historian lecturer myself, I'm not actually there. I was just pretending. I don't know. I don't know shit. Oh, so can I swear? I don't know if I can
Yeah.
swear. I don't really know. I'm so bad. I swear so much. I don't really know anything about art. But I love art. I love buying it, especially on Etsy.
Yeah,
So
big fan of Etsy.
I bought this behind me actually on Etsy, and I have told
Oh.
everyone it's me. It's not me, but it looks so much like it could be me. Just a woman doing that with her tits out. But it's honestly like I saw it and I was like, people are gonna think that's me.
You have picked the Voyager 1's pale blue dot.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what it is, first of all,
Yeah.
and why you picked it?
So I had to like ask at this because I was like, is this breaking the because like art, what is art? Blah blah
Mhm.
blah. I did the philosophy of art in uni. I can't remember anything of it, but the whole thing was just like, what is art? Um, and so I don't know, I just always resonated with photos more than paintings, I think. Um, and it's interesting because it wasn't necessarily made as like art, like it wasn't necessarily made as something that would be displayed in a gallery. It just, I think, is extremely artistic. So basically, Pale Blue Dot, like my knowledge is really crap of this, so I'm just going to summarize it the way that I have been told and the way I know it. So there was a spacecraft called Voyager 1, and it was in about like 1977, something around that time. NASA and a bunch of like smart people decided they needed to send off Voyager 1 to like basically explore interstellar space and get like pictures of stuff. So I don't think there were really many pictures of like Saturn and like Saturn's sort of world.
Mhm.
So they kind of sent this out, and it was traveling for 10 years. I think it got to like kind of the 80s, and it had basically completed its mission. So it was just kind of sent out just as far as it could go, to take photos. And it had basically, yeah, but about the 80s, it has kind of done its job, what it's needed. And there was this sort of philosopher, poet, like also space guy. He's like some sort of space guy, called Carl Sagan. And he really like pushed and pushed and pushed because he was like, we needed to take a photo of Earth. We need to get one last photo of Earth. And all the space people were like, no, the camera's too close to the sun. We don't really know what we're doing right now. And they kind of agreed that they were going to just like keep Voyager 1 traveling, and I think it's still traveling now. So it was supposed to go back to Earth, but they just decided like, let's just keep it going and see what else we can take photos of. But yeah, as it was leaving, he really wanted one picture of Earth, and everyone was like, oh, it's just going to be too small. Like, why would you
Mm.
even want to see that? You're not going to be able to, it doesn't mean shit. You're not going to be able to see anything. And Carl Sagan was like, no, it's like really important for the world to see just how small Earth is. Like humanity really, really needs to kind of get an understanding of sort of how little we matter in the scale of things, because every picture of Earth that everyone's ever seen is just like that big globe that's so overwhelming and it seems so vast itself. So they spun the camera around. Eventually, like 5 years later, they were convinced to spin the camera around. And I can't remember, there was a woman involved with the photographic technology that actually took the photo. But they took this picture of Earth and sent it back. And it is called Pale Blue Dot because you just see you just see atmosphere and stars, and then suspended in this tiny little sunbeam is this little pale blue dot. It's pathetic, you just can't see it, and that's Earth. And then Carl Sagan wrote sort of a poem about it called Pale Blue Dot, just basically summarizing like every war that's ever been fought, every argument that's ever been had, like every love that anyone's ever felt. It's all just kind of happening on this tiny little pale blue dot suspended in a sunbeam that doesn't really matter. And I just love it. I find it so soothing. I find the feeling of not mattering, I find that really comforting. And so I often, when I'm really, really stressed, or just when I'm trying to make a big decision, or just when I'm sort of thinking and I'm struggling, I'll come back to that picture of the pale blue dot and just kind of remember that it's like you've got about 100 years on this little pale blue dot, and nothing you do really matters, but it all completely matters at the same time. And I just love it. And I think it's really polarizing because I, every now and then, especially after like 2 wines, will tell everyone about pale blue dot. And it's so dividing. Some people are like the thought of that, they can't stand it. Yeah. It's just so horrible to know just how tiny we are. And then for me, I just find it so soothing to know how tiny we are.
Yeah, people tend to find this like argument that basically either some people find it very, very comforting, especially people with a religion, that there is a purpose and there is a plan, and that is very soothing to them, that, you know, life does have purpose and this is preordained and you know, we've been designed. Whereas I'm very much in the other camp of, isn't it brilliant? I find it very soothing, like you do, that this is all random.
Yeah.
What are the chances? I'm a little person on this tiny bit of dust in this sunbeam. So do you know what? I am going to buy a takeaway. Like, do you know what?
That's so good.
And
oh my God, I work in advertising.
Soothing.
I work in advertising and I do ads for takeaway companies. And that is so funny. I want to do a whole campaign around pale blue dot, and it's like nothing matters, buy a takeaway. Oh, I love that. I love not knowing what, because I'm winging it. Are you winging it? Like, do you get up every night, know what you're fucking doing? I don't know what I'm doing.
Winging it. Very winging
knowing
it.
That it's cool because the earth itself is winging it.
I hadn't seen it before. And a friend of mine who is an astrophysicist shows me every now and again these images of space. And they are almost like a bit too much to even compute. Like, looking at this, it looks more like if you were taking a picture of kind of this bluer version of it, if you were taking a picture of the sky and you get like a glint in your like iPhone camera. Yeah. It was actually going, no, that is us. We're all doing our thing on that right now. I think it is a bit too much to even kind of take in properly, and the poem that accompanies it really puts everything into perspective. But the image itself is so shocking when you kind of fully take it in, and I guess that is what art does.
Yeah, it's very shit as well. That's the other thing about it.
I love that.
Pixelated. It's like it's not good. Like, well, I mean, it must at the time it was amazing, but technology's come so far, and I love thinking like, yeah, technology's come really far, guys. Like, yeah, super, super exciting. Earth is still the same size. So if we took that photo again with a different camera, it would still be just as much of a letdown. Do you know, like, and I just think like, it's like, no filter can fix this. You're insignificant. I don't know. I think I love that.
I think, NASA technology is so odd because it's like, yeah, we sent a man to the moon before we built a laptop.
Right. It's actually it's kind of crazy because it's like, is space travel like easy compared to laptops? Why is space travel easier than making the internet? It just doesn't seem right. I do love that poem. It's very like, it's kind of not dated very well because the terminology is all very like, I think the word he and man is used like all the time, and I'm like, it's like reading a contract from your tenancy agency. But it is, I just love it. I love that poem.
You mentioned as well liking photographs a lot, and obviously, yeah, like we said, this is not kind of the most beautiful photograph by any means, but is that something you've always been interested in, photographs? Like, do you take photographs?
Oh yeah. So my dad has filmed like an archiving nerd. I grew up and I was one of that, you know, that kid that like their dad filmed everything. Yeah. He would just he had like this video camera and everything was just filmed, and then I kind of got like really, really obsessed with filming everything and taking photos of everything, and I was like always on camera even when I was like 8, so in like 98 and 99. And I just became obsessed, and I still can't tell if it's because I like photos or if it's because I like preserving moments. Yeah, there's been like a big obsession there. And I got like my first photo camera when I was 6, I think. I had like a little film camera. And then my grandfather was like he was like the chief. Basically every single photo of a train in New Zealand before 1995 was taken by my granddad. And so he had like paddling pools of photo developer in his garage and stuff. So yeah, I guess I've always like loved photos. But I don't, like, I'm not good at photography. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I did photography at school, and I think, I don't know I don't know there's something in my mind right now. I don't really know how to articulate it, about how photography's changed so much since the 90s. It used to be like such a big deal of photograph, and now it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the art world has had like a super confusing relationship with photography since the dawn of photography.
Right?
In that people who take photographs, who are like, I'm an artist and I'm a photographer, like you say, nowadays photography's changed so much. It's like, well, yeah, I could take a photograph on my phone. Like, everyone could take a photograph. And what does it mean to be an artist who is a photographer? Because it's something that everyone could do, whereas, not everyone could paint the Mona Lisa. And we've got a really strange relationship with it. And it's to do with, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, of painting and drawing, photography is so new. It's such a new technology that we haven't kind of got our heads around it, given that we know what painting is and we've had it for blooming ages. So people still are a bit uneasy about photographs. And you mentioned earlier about Etsy, which I think is really interesting, and the art world that is like galleries and art fairs and very like hierarchical. Think of Etsy as very like crafty and homemade and kind of like unprofessional, which is so bizarre, because also like it's just something that a very old system hasn't managed to wrap its head around yet.
Yeah. It's dinosaur attitude, isn't it? I think that's a lot of it's like iconography, really, and that the wealth of it, the like secret wealth of art. I mean, I don't know what that conversation is, but when you hear people talking about like gallery art versus there's that hierarchy you were mentioning. It's just it's because there's so much. There's I think a big side of art that people actually love is the gatekeeping and the rules and the cost and the like, oh, that's not art and that's art. I think there's a whole part of it that's like that, and I just find that so contradictory to what the art itself is half the time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like you'll have this like fun, fucking like crazy fun gallery going on that's like got 3 art installations that are all worth $30 million each, and they're like smashed balloons made of glass, and you're like, that's so fun. Like, that's a really humorous piece of art. Like, that's so exciting to look at. But the culture around it is like so exclusive. It's like no one is allowed to look at this fun balloon. I don't know, like it. I always find there's things like that, and you go to the Tate, and you're like, whoa, that's cool, that big stripy thing. And you feel people rolling their eyes at you, and you're like, oh, sorry, I'm not allowed to find any fun in this. I have to find only serious in this. And I think with the Etsy world, it's like, fuck you, we're having fun. We're having fun, and we're doing it in a really affordable way, and shut up.
I remember talking to someone who was like very high up in who worked in a gallery, who's very high up in their like directors board, about why I liked Hearst and Banksy and people like that. And I said, I think it's really funny how much they've been able to get away with. Like, Hearst is like, I'm going to put a shark in a box, lol. And and he was really displeased that I basically suggested that these kind of very two big players in this art world hierarchy that's built around like things being worth loads of money and kind of properness and stiff upper lipness, and the art gallery system, or the art selling and being an artist, that system hasn't really changed much in hundreds of years. I mean, even though it's more accessible, etc., and we've got the modern gallery, actually, like, the gatekeepers have not changed that much in hundreds of years. But the idea that you could enjoy art because it's funny, or because it's just like impressive or really interesting, you're not meant to like it because of that. You're not meant to like that because, isn't it funny that this guy just painted this whole canvas blue and now it's worth millions of pounds? Isn't that mad? But actually, you're meant to go, oh no, actually, I don't enjoy it, I just appreciate it. There's something about not enjoying things, appreciating things.
I know. There's this thing in it, isn't it? Because people hate fun, like the more fun something is, the less elite it is, and it's such a weird cycle, because artists are normally extremely different and extremely kind of neuroatypical, and just like they're unique in their thought, and they have like, they want to break rules, and then it gets stuck up in these galleries and it's taken super seriously, and it just doesn't make any sense anymore.
There's this thing of like, this idea that art is sacred as well. We've got this very strange idea about something like art being beyond reproach, whereas actually I go into galleries all the time and go, well, just shut up, like you say. Like I look at this piece and I go, like, I just can't have any of it. I'm just like, I don't like it. Straight up, I think that this guy is, this is really self-indulgent, or we get it, someone else has done it before. And like a lot of art makes me say shut up. But in a professional context, no art is meant to make you say shut up. It's meant to make you go,
I know. And like, why are we allowed to have such diverse and like visceral opinions of all the other entertainment we consume? Because I mean, I'd say art is entertainment, right? I don't know. I guess it is. It's like something other than work. And in my opinion, something other than work, that's entertainment. So when you go to a gallery, you're not allowed to be like, I hate that. Like you're not allowed to be like, I don't get it. Whereas you can put Netflix on and be like, I hate that, I don't get that, and no one says a thing. Not like this. I don't know. I just, opinions aren't like. I always struggle with this when I did like art at school. I was like, why are there a right and a wrong answer to this? It seems like the last thing that there should be a right and a wrong answer about. But there is.
And if you're watching like a comedy special on Netflix and you're like, I don't think that's funny, no one is then going to explain to you why you're wrong and why actually it is really funny. Whereas if
people are happy to tell me fucking that I'm not funny all day on Facebook comments. But if I was an art, like if I was a canvas.
Yeah, if you said it was performance art, people would have to, go, If you see something on Netflix you don't like and say, oh, I didn't think it was funny, no one's going to tell you why you're wrong. Whereas if you say, do you know what, I just sort of don't like Monet, a whole like village with pitchforks will be like, this is why your opinion is uninformed and like wrong. And we don't really have that for anything else, I guess, other than super fans of musicians. Like if someone says they don't like Taylor Swift, like all the Taylor Swift fans will be at you.
Yeah, exactly. But even then with the Taylor Swift thing, it's like not in that same, what is the word for it? Just like twat world. Like I don't know what the word, that like just like higher than everyone, fucking weird, boring land. But I mean, like art's not boring. I love it, but it's so ironic how it gets caged.
Exactly. Yeah. And artists aren't making art for these gallerists to display and sell on. And I've been in lots of conversations recently about art pricing and who you should invest in and this kind of thing. And it's like taking children from the playground and making them be accountants. Like artists, they want to make stuff with ideas behind it, or maybe not even with ideas behind it, but just visuals behind it. And then unfortunately they have to be churned through this system, which is like, cool, this is how you market yourself now. Cool, this is worth £10,000, that's worth £1,000. You're going to sell here and here and here, but not here. And if your audience thinks this about you, then that means you're probably going to be like, you'll have your career for 3 years. But actually what you want is like longevity, because if we're selling work on, and it's like, they don't care, they just want to make stuff.
I know. And I honestly, they are the art, that big fancy art society are going to just be seething at TikTok. I tell you that much. Oh my God. Art on TikTok is, I can't even go into how much that's like changing everything as well. People are just like painting gnomes, and then everyone will buy that gnome, and then everyone has it. And it's like millions and millions of gnomes. I don't know. Like it's definitely another kind of like big fuck you to how everything works, which I think is kind of crazy. Oh my God. Have you seen resin pouring?
I had a resin pouring phase and I loved it. And now I'm like, great. Enough people have made those little triangles with like a suspended flower.
And also like, isn't resin really terrible for the environment?
Exactly. And it's one of those things where I find it a lot with art as well, is like enough people are making resin earrings. You don't need to be another person who makes resin earrings. And I see it the same with like fresh graduates out of art school. It's like, cool, babe, enough people are doing abstract portraits in like vivid colours. You don't need to be another one of them.
Enough people are doing heaven versus hell dance routines. We're all there.
And again, that would be a terrible opinion for me to say in a professional context in the art world of, I honestly think we've got loads of artists. Do we need more?
I know.
Terrible opinion to have.
I know. And we need more following these rules that you've made. That's what I think is the more important thing. I'd love rule breaking. God, I love rule breaking. And like, just, I hate when something creative is given like certain check boxes. It drives me up the wall. It's like people think that there's a certain way to like tell a joke. Like, people used to always follow like this like Seinfeld model of like how many laughs per minute and like punchlines per minute and stuff. And it's just like, honestly, shut up, because that's not how anything works.
The same with comedy. I think it's different with things like books and with comedy, because there are things that you can express verbally and, you know, with speech patterns and timing and stuff that is going to be individual each time. Or, you know, it's far easier to be very explicitly different from, you know, the last person who was on, or like at that gig, who just did their set. Whereas with painting, and, you know, I think sometimes people feel like that there's like a more limited vocabulary that you can use through paint, through photography, etc., etc. And especially with photography, people find it really hard to be like, well, why is this original? Because they just took a picture of something anyone could take a picture of, right? And like, I think maybe art suffers from this idea that, yeah, I wouldn't ever say there were too many comedians, because people each have an individual story, but maybe artists, if they're not communicating something deep, then maybe like, why are they doing it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think, yeah, fuck, I don't know what I can say on a recording about too many comedians or not, so I might just skip it. But I think in any industry, there is always going to be a repeat of something that you've seen before 1,000 times and you're over it. I think that's like fact. And that's something that I have to always look out for when I'm doing stand up, is like, fuck, is anyone else talking about this? I mean, normally we're good, but you know. And I think with photography, yeah, you just remind me of something. Like, the reason people get weird about, like, you know immediately the difference between a shit photograph and a good photograph. It's the same as like a good, like someone who doesn't know how to draw and someone who does know how to draw, someone who does know how to take photos and someone does know how to take photos. It's so obvious. It is just as hard to take a really amazing photo as it is to make a really amazing piece of art. It's not, not anyone can take that. Like, still to this day, I mean, more like the challenge gets harder and harder and harder, but with technology advancing. But that's the same with drawing. Like, it's the same with all art. But you know, like if I take a picture of a crowd of people, like, so say I'm at a concert and I just take a photo of a crowd, it's just going to be dusty and blurry and weird and grey, and even though it's dark, it's grey, and the lighting will be all wrong. But then if a really talented photographer takes a picture of people in the crowd, they'll manage to do it where like just one light highlights someone so fascinating, and then you can see every single tiny little granular detail, and you go into like just a kind of like tunnel of thought and like thinking and nostalgia and memories and like smells that you just remember from being in those situations like that. So not anyone can just take a photo.
Exactly.
But people are so obsessed with this idea that anyone can just take a photo. And then that people say the same thing, like anyone can slap a bit of paint in the middle of a canvas. And it's like, yeah, but no, they can't. Do you know what I mean?
But also, like, yeah, but no, they didn't. People always say that about, you know, my 5-year-old could have painted that. And you're like, yeah, well, they didn't. So
okay, cool. Why don't you whip that up? Chuck it in a gallery. Go to all the effort of like getting people to notice you, look at it, get it to level where it is, the hustle behind the scenes. Yeah, you want to go do that? Go on. No,
well, it's the same as everyone always has that friend who is like laddie at a pub and is like, I bet I could do stand up. No, cool. Have a go.
I love it when they say that. Every time guys do this to me all the time. They will be like, I reckon I could do stand up, and I'm like, yeah, do it, and like really like want to get on the phone booking them to an open mic gig just because they're just gonna fucking fail at it so much, and I just really want to see that, which I think is extremely vicious of me. But there is something I just absolutely love about watching people who think they can do stand up fucking do a terrible job of it. I love watching new comedians do really, really well at the same time. Like, I love someone at an open mic gig just like giving it a crack. I think that's incredible and important. But there's that attitude, right? There's like that person who's like, what if I've got this idea and I want to kind of just paint this small little dot on this like wall. And I don't know if that's crazy. And I'm like, well, it sounds like quite cool. Go do that. Like, I like that. But if they say, well, anyone can do that, I'll just do that. That's the wrong way. It's the same thing with stand-up. Someone's saying like, I don't know, I just kind of had this idea for like some open mic that could be really quite cool. I'm going to encourage the hell out of that. But someone who's saying anyone can do it, I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Like, do it and I will film you.
Yeah, I'll put it online. I'll put it on YouTube. I'll put it on TikTok.
Alice, thank you so much for joining me today. Where is the best place that we can follow you and hear what you're up to?
And let's just go with Instagram or Twitter. My name's just Alice Brine, and I somehow managed to get that on everything. So it's brine, like tuna cans, like tuna soaked in brine. That's the one. So if you just type that into anything, that's what comes up as me. Sometimes I post stories on my Instagram called Would You Date Them Based on Shoes Only, which is very fun. And you just tap through and vote whether you would date someone based only on their shoes there. So that I can offer you that.
I can't wait. That's so brilliant. Thanks so much for watching. You can follow Alice in the ways written below. And as per usual, you can follow me at VerityBabsArt on Instagram. Make sure you're subscribing and give us a like, and I'll see you next time.